thing in the way it's used.
It's a big word. Both. It can mean both.
It could be a higher self, it could be a smaller self. But the reason like self here, because it's not defined, it is our nature. It could be the soul. It could be translated as the soul as well. It could be translated as the self, because it comes in both contexts in Arabic. So because we talked about the principles, there is also a constantly repeated theme in the Quran, which is you shall find.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, the verse here, it says فَلَنْ تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا وَلَنْ تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَحْوِيلًا. You shall find no change in the law of God, nor will you find any alteration in the law of God. The word sunnah sometimes in Arabic is used generally to refer to the sunnah of the Prophet. We say, God and the sunnah of the Prophet when we discuss the Quran and the sunnah of the Prophet as references. But sunnah is actually a larger term in Arabic. Sunnah in Arabic means the way with capital W. And the reason the path of the Prophet has been named because of our respect of the Prophet. So we say his path and the principled path that he led and laid down for us. But in the Quran, the word sunnah is never used in that context. The word sunnah in the Quran is used as the concept that refers to the laws of God, the immutable laws. So we could say gravity is sunnah. We could say the fact that H2O makes water, that's sunnah. Things that will never change. If there is not a drop of water in the universe, there will be the sunnah of water. So the sunnah is the principle, even without the existence of that material manifestation of the law. And there are also explanations throughout the Quran that these laws permeate not just the physical realm. They permeate the realm of the physical world, the biological world, and also the human world, which is the moral world. So when the Quran, for example, says that one seed of wheat gives us 7 times fold, 7 branches, each branch carrying 100 seeds, that we're seeing that the laws of biology are more abundant than the law of physics. So if I bounce a ball, it's equal in energy, opposite in direction. However, when I plant a seed, the consequences are delayed, but the results are more abundant. And then the Quran tells us that in the realm of the moral realm, that the consequences are even more, because it says God sometimes gives without accounting. And in fact, in most religious texts, not only in the Quran, we find that the moral realm is always compared through analogy with the biological realm, because there's more abundance and also the consequences are delayed. So when you do good, you may not see the results immediately, but there will be eventually good coming out, just like the way plants end up growing. A little apple seed will end up growing, giving thousands of apples later, and yet it's a small seed. So then when you start to see how the images that we are given in the Quran, you start to see the abundance of God. And that abundance is always explained to us as not just being limited to the physical and biological realms, but also to the moral realm. That there's consistency to the laws of God and the principles of God, and there's abundance. And each round we're moving from the physical, the abundance is getting more and more. Almost to the level that we're entering the world of miracles when we enter the realm of love and compassion. So that's why it's important to understand that the moral realm in the Quran is explained as being subject to principles and laws. And I'm using these verses as an introduction to the theme of love. So, in the Quranic text, the mercy of God reaches or encompasses everything. The word rahmah in the Quranic text is used to refer to God's protection and abundance and mercy and compassion to all creation. So the Rahman and Rahim are constantly used. And here the verse says, قَالَ عَذَابِي أُصِيبُ بِهِ مَنْ أَشَاءُ وَرَحْمَتِي وَسِعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. and he said here in this passage from Surah Al-A'raf, verse 156, my punishment I target with it whom I will, but my mercy extends to everything. And so we need to understand that the principle of mercy encompasses everything. And not only that, but that the abundance and the bounty and the giving of God also is given to all. So when God discusses those who believe in Him and those who don't believe in Him, and how He gives them in dunya, remember we also talked a little bit about this. He says, كُلًّا نَمُدُّ هَؤُلَاءِ وَهَؤُلَاءِ مِنْ عَطَاءِ رَبِّكَ وَمَا كَانَ عَطَاءُ رَبِّكَ مَحْظُورًا. All of them we sustain or flourish and thrive even. Those and those. The believers and the non-believers. From the bounty of your Lord, and the bounty, or for the bounty of your Lord, is never exclusive. So we discussed last time how the bounty and the abundance of God is not conditionally exclusive to only those who believe. Success in dunya is not given to only the believers. If there was a farmer who was a believer and a farmer who was not a believer, and they worked hard, their patch of land, they will have results. God gives all. So God's abundance is to all. Those who apply the principles needed. Faith in God does not condition anything. And we said last time that the significance of that is that if people were only sustained and given if they believed in God, then faith is no longer choice. It's no longer free. And we already used that example at the beginning, that God's condition for humanity is choice and freedom. We are a two-directional being. So faith is a choice. It comes from a place of choice and love. We can succeed in dunya according to the Quran without believing in God. But when we believe in God, it's not because God is sustaining us.
Not because?
Not because God is sustaining us. It comes from a different place. It comes from a place of gratitude.
Yes.
Because it's there. And that's why in the Quran we tend to also find that the word faith and kafir. Kafir is actually literally means those who hide the truth or who deny. And the other concept is not like when the Quran discusses kafir, it doesn't discuss mu'min. It discusses shakur, kafuran shakura, those who are grateful. So the opposite word to those who deny is those who are grateful. So it comes from a place of gratitude, from a place of love. And that's why, as we said last time too, when the Prophet was praying long nights and Aisha told him, hasn't God forgiven you? Why are you praying these long prayers and meditating? And he said, أَفَلَا أَكُونُ عَبْدًا شَكُورًا. Wouldn't I be a grateful worshipper? So it was from a place of love. Because God had already, she's saying to him, God had already provided you. So that relationship, the reason I chose this theme is because we discussed it a little bit. So now we come to the notion of love, because we come from a place of gratitude. So the notion of love in the Quran, when the concept of love used in the Quran, it's very different from the concept of mercy and compassion, which extends to all and encompasses everything. It is a connection of intimacy and closeness. And it is only discussed in the context of human beings and God. So God doesn't say God loves the trees. Yet God's mercy and compassion and abundance extends to trees and to all creatures. The word love in the Quranic text, interestingly, is used in relation to humanity. And so what I thought, I'll give you, Ramadan is coming and it's actually nice to think about these concepts. I'll give you the concept and the context in which the word love has been used and the things that God loves and the things that God doesn't love. So the Quran, we see in the Quranic text that it is when the concept of love is used, it is in relation to specific behaviors and qualities and traits. So let's start with the tougher part, so that we end with the good part. So let's see what the things that God doesn't love. So you can go to these verses. I just chose the specific verse that deals directly with God loves, God doesn't love. But throughout Ramadan, inshallah, you can go to these contexts and look at the general context in which these verses fall or sit, and they are also meant to direct us and to instruct us, because these qualities are the qualities that afflict the human condition. We all have the things that God doesn't love. We all have the things that God loves. So how can we slowly free ourselves from these qualities, and how can we slowly align ourselves? As we said, there are laws that govern all realms. So generally, as I said earlier, because traditional religious discourse sometimes shows God as if God is moody, he loves some people, he doesn't love some people. If we start to understand that there are principles and rules through which the love of God flows, and we achieve this intimacy, then we will start applying them. And if we know the things that God doesn't love, we'll also avoid them.
In the Jewish Bible, the God is made out to be a jealous God. The God, if you read Genesis, right? I mean the Old Testament. God is jealous. God is angry. God is vengeful, full of vengeance, a vengeful God. And God is favors only a certain group of people, right? And that's the Israelites. So this is very much present in the Jewish faith, because that's the Old Testament. And yet in Islam, do we have that same concept of an angry God, a vengeful God, a selfish God? What did I say before?
Jealous.
A jealous God.
Favors.
Okay, so because I'm also familiar with the Jewish Bible, so somebody could actually read the Quranic text and end up with that description of God, because God sometimes says, I don't want you to love anyone above me. That could be described as a jealous God. God says that, as we said here, and my punishment, I target with it whom I will. Somebody could say,
that one is the first commandment. You know, Moses get 10 commandments.
Yes.
The first one is,
yeah.
thou shalt have no other God but me.
Yes.
Because
And so there
I'm a jealous God.
there are similar things. So there are similar themes. However, when we read closely the Jewish Bible and the Quranic text, we find that God's love and God's jealousy and God's punishment and anger have specific conditions. And this is what I'm trying to do here. Because when we read these things, when we say, oh, God punishes whomever he wills, and then some people say, we are beloved by God, and I didn't bring it here in this context, but I mean, it's a reference, like, نحن أبناء الله وأحباؤه قالت النصارى واليهود, that the Jews and the Christians said, we are beloved by God, and we are his children. And the Quran tells us, and so did those like them say, which means other religious traditions could also say, we are beloved by God and we are the favorite ones. And then God's answer in that context, the verse reads, قُلْ فَلِمَ يُعَذِّبُكُمْ بِذُنُوبِكُمْ.